Robinson, and I'm going to be doing my topic on African Americans and the effect they had on the Independence War and wars after. So when African Americans were first brought over to America, they were not allowed to fight with any of the whites during the wars. People didn't want to fight alongside of them because of the color of their skin. But slowly, they started being able to help in wars due to people like Abe Lincoln and stuff, slowly wanting them to be around in wars and helping out. So like I said, specifically, I'm going to be talking about about the impact African Americans had on the Independence War and wars later. So I thought that this topic was very interesting. I just thought that if I was a slave, I would never try and help out the people that were enslaving me. But more goes into it. It's deeper than it seems on the surface. I know that African Americans did a lot for this country against their will, so I just wanted to learn a little bit more about how we contributed in wars. In history books in high school and stuff, they didn't really talk about it. They just talked about the main European people in wars and stuff like that. So it was just cool to see exactly what or how African Americans impacted the wars. So like I said at first, African Americans weren't allowed to help out in wars at first. After the Independence War, because of how much of a positive impact the African Americans had, they slowly started to let more and more African Americans help out. This led to more slaves being let free, which also led to, after a long period of time, the abolition of slavery. This just shows how much African Americans actually helped people out who did nothing but talk down on them, treat them with disrespect. There were a few shocking points that stood out to me during my research. For one, it was said that African American women would try and find and save up any money that they could get their hands on, and they would go and make food and take it to any patriot prisoners that were caught during this time of war. This was risking their own lives because if they were caught, they themselves would be killed. So this was just crazy to see how African American women would risk their own lives just because of what they thought or how serious the war was to them and how much they cared about their people. Another thing I found interesting was how much everyone was so against African Americans helping out in wars, but as soon as they started contributing, or majorly contributing, then everyone was all for it. It's just crazy how fast one side could switch up and just want the other side to, or agree with the other side, I'm sorry. So the research didn't leave a huge impact on me, but it did leave something. It was just cool to see that African Americans were counted on and needed in order to win wars. African Americans played huge parts in wars, and they played huge parts in wars that were for another person's country. So this was just amazing to see, and I understand why they would help fight though. Any enslaved man against their will would want to fight for their freedom or die trying. Thank you.